Hi guys, it's Paul Green with Bradis Northwest. Today we've decided to test out ballistics through walls. So anybody who uses a gun for home defense might think about what happens when you take that shot and either that bullet passes through the threat or you miss the threat. That shouldn't happen, but if it does, you miss the threat and now you got a bullet going through the walls. How far is that bullet going to pass through the walls? What's on the other side of those walls? Is that your kid's bedroom? Is it just an exterior wall? So what we've done here is we've got simulated walls, 2x4 spacing between 1/2 inch drywall. We've actually put R13 insulation in between because we want this as realistic as possible. The only difference between this and a real wall is, one, there is not a 2x4 on 16-inch centers. We did that because we don't want one of the bullets to hit a stud and then have different results. We also have the walls spaced out about 12 feet between each wall, kind of to simulate a room size. So as the bullet passes through this first wall, it might tumble and hit that second wall sideways, which would obviously not give it the penetrating power that it would have if it hit it point on. So this is as close to being in a real house as we could come up with. Okay guys, this is 22 long rifle, 36 grain bullets, a hollow point, and coming out at about 1,280 feet per second. That's what the box says. So we're gonna go ahead and see what we got here.
Alright, 22 long rifle. We have our 3 rounds entry here. 3 pretty tight exit holes for the first wall. Into the second wall, you're seeing them spread out and you're starting to keyhole a little bit. Probably tumbling bullets coming out of that first drywall. Lost one into the wood. Looks like we have 2 exits still. One of them made its way, obviously tumbling as its way off axis here. And we have an impact into our paper back there. So 22 long rifle. One was taken out by the wood, and one of 3 made it all the way through 3 interior walls into a paper target.
9mm, 115 grain, full metal jacket. 9mm, 115 grain, Hornady critical defense ammunition. 9mm, Winchester hollow point. 45 hollow point.
Alright, results of our handgun shooting. We started with 9mm 115 grain full metal jacket, moved to 115 grain hollow points in the Hornady and the Winchester, and then up into the 45 ACP hollow points. You'll see that all of them started to spread out. So here's our 9mm 115 grain, 1, 2, and 3. And we have our critical defense, 4, 5, and 6. All the holes are nice and round, so the rounds are still staying straight. Even the hollow points are not getting too distorted passing through. We have our 45. And even here on the third wall, we're still getting more spread. Some of that's due to spreading out our shot pattern, some of that's due to deflection, but nothing is tumbling yet. In all calibers, and still getting hits on the paper targets, with exception of a few that are leaving the blast wall too low.
55 grain, 5.56 XM 193. 55 grain Hornady VMAX. Remington 55 grain PSP. 77 grain Black Hills.
Alright, we got our 4 loads of AR-15. We have our Hornady VMAX XM193 and Remington PSP, all 3 in 55 grain and some 77 grain Black Hills. We saw some pretty varying results here with these guys. The Hornady VMAX and the XM193 both did about consistently straight penetration. The Remington PSP, actually we have 9 total impacts from it on this third wall. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 impacts from 3 rounds of the Remington PSP. So all 3 of those broke all up. And of course you can see how spread they are, so we didn't get much on the other side, but they did all 3 penetrate the third wall as well. 77 grain Black Hills was an interesting performer. We had 3 entries here, 3 pretty clean exit holes. Then we have, you can see it's starting to definitely spread out, but still fairly stable. And then as soon as we get over here, we have 1 impact. You can tell by the shape of the impact there, it's completely tumbled sideways. 1 onto the wood here that just kind of penetrated straight through, and then 1 missed the wall completely. Interesting thing is, looking back through this, you can actually see the angle that it was tumbling through there. Bullet entered the other side of the wall almost vertically, and then is pointed about 11 o'clock here on this side.
12 gauge, 2 3/4, 7.5 bird shot.
Alright, here's the 7.5 bird shot. You can see a pretty good entry, about the size of a fist, a little smaller. Nice tight group. Of course, that's going to depend on distance and choke. Pretty healthy exit wound there. And the 12 feet to our second wall. You have a lot of peppering, but not even any of them penetrated all the way through this first layer of drywall. So, as far as not over penetrating, birdshot's a pretty effective way to go.
This is 12 gauge, 2 3/4, high brass. Shot number 4.
So a number 4 waterfowl shot. You have about the same size entry. Pretty similar exit wounds. Get to our second wall here. The peppering is definitely quite a bit deeper. Spreads about the same. And actually on the back side of our second wall, you can see a little bit of dimpling here, so it doesn't appear that any of them actually broke the surface of this wall, but definitely at least hit it enough to dimple.
12 gauge, 3-inch buckshot, double-aught buckshot.
Okay, 3-inch double-aught buck. We have 1 large hole there, that's from the wad, and the rest of those are buck pellets going through. Double-aught buck pellets are about the size of a 9mm bullet. Then you have exit wounds, deflected down pretty heavily. Still some good penetration. Unfortunately, we're getting pretty low on our wall due to the deflection, but we've got some exits here. So the double-aught buck cleaning through all 3 walls with quite a bit of deflection.
12 gauge, 2 3/4-inch slug.
.12 gauge slug. Again, we have 2 impacts on the beginning. One of those would be the wad. Exit hole. Pretty clean entry, still boring straight through. Very little deflection that you're seeing in these slug rounds. And this one, clean through, right into the wood right there. We have that went into the wood at the bottom of our target stand, so clean through penetration with the least amount of deflection we saw out of anything.
Hey guys, this is Paul with Paratus Northwest again. So we just tried out the 22, 9mm, 45, the 223, 5.56 AR-15, and the 12 gauge. All three of these walls, basically, if I'm shooting at a threat here in the same room as there's a wall, a room after that, and a room after that. So that's all we decided to test, except for it even makes it out of that. All of those rounds that I just mentioned made it through all three walls, including the insulation, with the exception of 12 gauge light load 7.5 shot. So if not over penetrating is something you are concerned about, from this test result, 2 3/4 inch 7.5 shot is pretty much your only option.